Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Metro Inner Development Assessment Fund. I declare the meeting open at 9:33 a.m. and acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people, the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respect to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with the DAP standing orders and the DAP regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website. By being present at this meeting, attendees consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be live streamed to the public. Recordings are also made available on the DAP website and YouTube page. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'd like to introduce the members that will be participating in this meeting today. My name is Dale Page. I'm the presiding member. To my left is Clayton Hyam, Deputy Presiding Member, and Luigi D'Alessandro, Specialist Member. For the Part B part of the agenda, City of Belmont, we have Mayor Robert Rossi and Councillor Phil Marks will also be in attendance. Do we have Councillor Marks online yet?
He's there, yeah.
Councillor Marks, can you hear us?
Just asked him to start his machine. Oh, there he is.
Councillor Marks, can you hear us and see us? We can't hear you, unfortunately.
Yeah, that should be right now.
Yes, you can hear us and see us okay?
I can hear and see you, yes.
Thank you. We also then have for Part C of our agenda, which relates to the town of Cambridge, in the room with us, and they'll join us at the table shortly, is Mayor Gary Mack and Councillor Kate Barlow. Welcome to you both. Item 2, apologies, there are nil today. Item 3, noting of minutes. Minutes of all previous meetings are available on the DAP website. Moving to Part B, the City of Belmont. The first item is declaration of due consideration. Panel members need to have considered all the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and the Part B related information. And that includes information that was circulated to all members last night. Could I please confirm by a show of hands that members have received and have reviewed and considered all the information? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 2, disclosures of interest. Could I check with our local government members, please, whether this application has been before you at a briefing or a meeting? No? All right, no other disclosures of interest have been received to this point. Do any members wish to make any declarations in relation to this item? No? Excellent. Let's move on then to item 3, our Form 1 DAP application for Belmont today. Lot 132, number 3, Casella Place, and Lot 4, number 5, Casella Place, Kewdale. Logistics centre, including warehouse, container storage, and retention of existing office and workshop, DAP number 26/03089. We have one presentation on this item today. We have Jared Ross from TBB and Rashida from Hesperia for that presentation. I have approved a 5-minute presentation time for this applicant team. We have read all the written documentation you have provided, so I encourage you to focus on the key points you'd like to get across within that time frame. Jared, will you be doing the presentation?
Yes.
All right, your time starts when you're ready and we will ask questions when you're done.
Thank you, presiding member. Thank you, panel members. We are speaking in support of the application today, subject to modifications to conditions. I would apologise for such late information yesterday. We have been working collaboratively with the city on this matter throughout the assessment period and once the RAR was published and after the application, and we had an agreeable position yesterday, and I felt best to put that forward to the DAP as quickly. We seek modification to conditions 5, 13, 14, 28 with respect to amalgamation, sustainability matters, and the structural height of structures across the site. These changes that we're proposing don't alter the development as proposed. They simply ensure that conditions will address the relevant planning outcomes without creating unnecessary location barriers. With respect to the first matter, amalgamation, so the development has been designed intentionally to operate across both lots, with circulation of heavy vehicles providing safe and efficient movement. It would be accessed via lot 1 through 2 and exit via lot 4. There are no buildings that traverse the boundaries. There are no other impediments to site operating as proposed. Both lots are under common ownership. The tenant's lease covers the full operational area. The planning outcome, in our view, is secured through the approved plans and through the access conditions associated. In our opinion, the requested amalgamation adds no further operational protection. The city has the ability to action the development or enforce the development through the approved development plan. For us, amalgamation is actually a critical delivery risk, as it will trigger substantial Western Power upgrades to be able to create the amalgamated lot, remove existing infrastructure and reconnect. That will take around a year. And it has a specific delivery time frame. We have to wait 2 years for amalgamation to be able to occupy the site and develop. This would be a disproportionate outcome, and in our view, it's unnecessary. Originally, we requested that the condition was deleted. In further discussions with the city, they have put forward an alternative recommended condition, which requires that that the development approval ceases if further subdivision or further changes in land ownership in that the access and egress operations of the heavy vehicles can no longer be implemented as proposed. We don't consider that this condition is necessary, but we are accepting of it on the basis that it doesn't have an impact to our operation. We don't intend to sell the lots to 2 different parties. We don't intend to undertake a further subdivision. We have requested one minor modification, which is to add that the condition is satisfied if the lots are amalgamated, so that if we do choose to amalgamate the sites at some point in our own time, that the arms of the condition fall away, which is largely inherent in the condition anyway. We understand that the city is supportive of this modification and supportive of the proposed replacement of condition 13 and ask for that support. With respect to the sustainability initiatives, we have already submitted an ESD statement that identifies a broad package of initiatives, including solar, tree planting, material reuse, carbon reduction and future EV capacity. These initiatives are offered voluntarily and reflect Hesperia's established and award-winning approach across its industrial developments. The issue here is not a commitment to sustainability initiatives, but rather to ensure that the condition recognises that final measures depend on technical and commercial assessment. We need to balance a raft of standards in initiatives between building, health, engineering, and there needs to be flexibility in implementing those. We have put forward a revised condition, which we workshopped with the city, which we consider is acceptable. It requires us to update our existing ESD statement to note the timeframes associated with those and implement that insofar as practicable, the reasons of satisfaction. We're comfortable with this condition because it doesn't affect our building permit or occupancy permit stages, and we believe that this condition can be. So as a result, we're requesting that condition 5 is replaced with the alternative condition, and the condition 14 is deleted.
Almost at time, so I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
I'll be very. The last matter relates to container height. Perth Airport requires a maximum of RL of 38 metres AHD to protect their flight paths. Airspace. The condition makes reference to 13.7 metres, which is the height of our building. We need 5 high stacked sea containers on site. That's part of the approval. That's 14.8 metres. We can still fit 14.8 metres of sea containers within that 38 metre. So we're asking for a minor modification to that condition, which again, we understand the city supports. I'll wrap up there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jared. I'd like to see if there are any questions of these presenters. I'm going to start with our members online. Mayor Rossi, questions from you.
Yeah, thank you. Just go back to condition number 13. You said the city supports the new wording, but then you said late at the very late point you put in some words at the very end that were in bold. Has the city approved that also? Are we able to go back to that slide or not?
I'm happy to answer the question.
Jared, do you want to respond?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we have discussed this with the city, and my understanding is that the city officers are supportive of that addition.
Okay, so the wording, this condition is satisfied if the lots are amalgamated, the city supports. That is the addition of those words.
Through the chair, yes, that is my understanding.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll double check that with the city's officers when we come to that. Mayor Rossi, do you have any further questions of the
No.
applicant team?
No.
No. Councillor Marks, any questions?
No, as long as what has just been discussed is correct, I'm happy. Thanks.
Thank you. Members in the room, questions of the applicant team?
Not from me, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation today. We're now going to move to invite questions of the local government officers, and we have Nick Reddy and Brandon Pang with us today from the City of Belmont. I'm not going to ask you to reiterate anything that's in your RA. We've read all of that, but would you like to make any comments following the deputation that has just been made? Or are you happy to go straight to questions?
Yeah, I could just make a brief statement.
Thank
you. Thank you, presiding member. Again, I'll make it brief. So as the applicant stated, the RAR, since it was finalised, both the city and the applicant have continued discussions relating to conditions 13, 5, 14 and 28. And an agreement yesterday was made between the parties regarding rewording of conditions and also the deletion of condition 14. So we have reviewed the written deputation and agreed to the wording provided in the written deputation. Maybe we'll leave it there. If we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Nick. Councillor Rossi, any questions of the officers?
I think they've clarified everything, but just want to clarify, the point is the height. Can I just get reassurance with the new runway being so close that it meets all height requirements?
Yes, through the chair, the condition was recommended by Perth Airport, and they would have confirmed that the heights are consistent with their requirements.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Mayor Rossi?
No.
Councillor Marks, any questions of the officers?
Similar with the runway height above the runway, the 38 metres, are they accepting of the 38 metres Perth Airport?
Yes, through the chair, in the but there was an attachment with Perth Airport's referral response, and that was where the condition originated, and the 38 metres AHD was in their recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Marks, any further questions? No. Members in the room, questions of the city officers? Mayor Hyam? Member Hyam, not me. Promoted.
It's going to condition 9. In my mind, it's not a planning condition, but I want if you could explain the planning purpose of that condition, which asks for some prepaid fees in accordance with the schedule, which is not part of the planning regime.
Through the chair, so condition 9 relates to the removal of one of the city's street trees within the verge. So we often put this condition forward. I believe the applicant originally requested that a tree be relocated. However, I believe in the RAR it sets out that we have a policy which if a tree is to be removed, it's to be replaced with 3 new street trees, and the payment associated with that is for the city to undertake the works to remove the tree. And then
That's in the policy, is it?
It is a I'm not sure whether it's a policy. I'll just try and find it. It is written in the RAR in this section. Sorry. Right, sorry, it is a council policy. So it's council policy 48, our urban forest policy. It's set out in there.
So it's not a, excuse me, it's not a planning policy.
It's not a local planning policy. No, it's a council policy.
Thank you. Yes, I think I am with you. Oh, sorry. Advice note 2. Normally would be part of the landscape. The second part, which is the plants are to be nurtured until they reach that. That's a bit more like a condition or part of a condition to me. Is that something that would normally attach to a landscape condition?
Through the chair, we do have condition 12, which relates to landscaping being prior to occupancy. I believe that's standard wording for our advice notes, but we're comfortable that condition 12 would.
All right, so it's belt and braces basically. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions of the officers, we're going to move to the report section of the agenda now. I would, in order to debate the item in front of us, I'm going to seek a mover and seconder for the recommendation in the report. Anyone wish to move? Thank you, Councillor Marks. Do I have a seconder? I will second. Thank you, Councillor Marks. Do you wish to speak to the substantive?
I'm very happy with what I've read and what I've seen. I agree with the changes to the conditions, and as such, I haven't anything else to say. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Marks. I too am happy to support the recommendation for approval, but before talking to the substantive motion, I'd like to move a series of amendments to conditions. The first is to amend condition 1 to include a list of the plans and reports that form part of the approval. The condition currently references the plans with a date stamp 16th of June, but our practice more recently is to include a list of those plans. So do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mayor Hyam. I don't think I need to say much more other than the inclusion of relevant development plan numbers provides clarity regarding the documents that form part of the actual determination. Do you wish to speak?
No.
Does anyone else wish to speak to that amendment? All right, let's vote on that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And I seek to amend condition 4 to read as follows. Prior to lodging an application for a building permit, a detailed schedule of external materials, finishes and colours to be used in the construction of the new development shall be submitted for approval. Prior to occupation, the approved materials, finishes and colours shall be implemented to the satisfaction of the city. No changes to the approved materials, finishes and colours shall be made unless otherwise approved by the city. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Hyam. Look, the reason for that amendment to the wording is the current wording really suggests that the approved schedule needs to be implemented prior to the lodgement of a building permit, and that's not possible. So the amended condition clarifies the timeline for different actions, and it ensures that if changes need to be made to the approved materials, finishes and colours in the future, possibly as a result of maintenance or upgrades, those changes don't necessarily have to be the subject of a further formal development application. Do you wish to speak?
No.
All right, let's vote on that amendment. All those in favour? Then I would seek to, and I'll deal with this on block because they're related, delete condition 14 and amend condition 5 as requested by the applicant and as agreed by the city. The condition 5 would then read, prior to lodging of the built form building permit, the applicant owner shall submit an updated ESD statement inclusive of anticipated delivery timeframes for initiatives. The sustainability initiatives identified in that statement shall be further investigated and, where demonstrated to be technically and commercially practicable, incorporated into the detailed design and construction of the development to the reasonable satisfaction of the city. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Pyam. As per the justification provided by the applicant, there is no adopted local planning policy or scheme provision requiring a formal sustainability report or post-construction certification for this form of industrial development. Whilst it is reasonable to seek more clarity about the sustainability initiatives originally suggested to the design review panel, it's not reasonable to require the certification process, which has no statutory planning basis and would unduly delay progress of the proposed development. Do you wish to speak?
I agree with the comments you've made.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak to that amendment? No? Right, let's vote in favour of that amendment. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And then I seek to amend condition 13 as requested by the applicant and as supported by the city to read as follows. This approval ceases to have effect upon the occurrence of any of the following events: the subdivision of Lot 4 or Lot 132, other than amalgamation, or any other change to the lot configuration that prevents the approved logistics centre from operating in accordance with the approved plans, including the approved access, vehicle circulation and manoeuvring, or a change in ownership in either Lot 4 or Lot 132, except where both lots are transferred simultaneously to the same registered proprietor or a legally constituted subsidiary, unless otherwise approved by the city. This condition is satisfied if the lots are amalgamated. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Marks. The reason for the amendment, the panel has noted the applicant's concerns about the impact on timing that a condition to amalgamate the lots will have, and the alternate options to protect the current approval. The condition will ensure that both the integrity of the approval will be protected in the event there is future intention to subdivide or sell either of the lots or components thereof. Councillor Marks, a second. Did you want to talk to that amendment? No? Any other member wish to speak to that amendment? Let's put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. And then lastly, I'd like to amend condition 8 as suggested by the applicant and agreed by the city to read as follows. The development, including any stacking of sea containers, shall not exceed RL 38 metres AHD to the satisfaction of this. Do I have a second? Thank you, Member Hyam. The reason being the amendment removes ambiguity and correctly reflects the Perth Airport height constraint. Any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No, let's vote on it. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I'll revert back to the substantive now. Very briefly, a logistics centre is a discretionary use in the industrial zone, which means it's capable of approval by the staff. I am satisfied that the individual components of the development proposed fall within the overall definition of a logistics centre and that the proposed use meets the objective of the industrial zone. The proposal is consistent with the industrial character of the area and is compatible with nearby land uses with no adverse impact on the amenity of the surrounding area. Given the absence of a parking ratio for logistics centre in the city scheme, I note the parking calculation done based on the individual components that make up the development and the resultant shortfall of 121 car parking bays when assessed in this way. But I don't think this method of calculating parking demand is accurate, given the integrated nature of the development and the likely actual demand for a logistics centre. Therefore, in line with the points that are outlined by the city on page 24 of the report and the evidence-based analysis they've provided of other similar developments, I'm satisfied that the parking proposed will be adequate to service the development, noting that there is enough space on the site to accommodate more parking in future if needed. I note that 6 trees will be removed to accommodate the warehouse and crossover access, but that 5 large new native trees and 29 smaller native trees will be planted. I also note the city is satisfied that the applicant has responded to the comments raised by the city's design review panel about landscaping and has required a detailed landscape plan as a condition of approval. Other issues raised through the design review process have also been appropriately responded to by the applicant, and the city has clarified it is satisfied with the applicant's responses to these issues raised. I also note that some of these will be reinforced through conditions of approval as appropriate. And finally, in relation to traffic, I note the findings of the traffic impact assessment and the city's validation of these, that the development can be accommodated within the existing road network and that the proposed access, circulation and manoeuvring arrangements are acceptable. So on that basis, I am happy to support. Does any other member wish to speak to this substantive? Mayor Rossi, do you wish to speak?
No, I'm just happy that the officers and the applicants have worked together to resolve a lot of the issues.
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. Members in the room?
Just to, suppose, reinforce the comments that you made, Lottie member, but as a discretionary use, it meets the objectives of the scheme and zone and importantly that of the Kewdale industrial area. In terms of discretion, again, I agree with the officers and their calculation of the parking or the way they've gone about calculating the parking and the evidence-based information they provided. So I'm more than happy to support the reduced parking numbers. This is a quality development, and I've seen a number of Hesperia developments in the past, and this is no different in terms of the level of quality that we're seeing here. So congratulations to them and the way they've approached this application. I agree with the changes we've made to the various conditions and happy to support the proposal.
Sandro, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. I'll just.
All right. I'm going to revert to the mover, but before I do, I just want to raise an issue that's been identified with the first point in the recommendation, that it references Reg 17 of the Planning and Development Regs, which I believe is a Form 2. So we will just correct that administratively, if that is okay with the city.
Yep.
Yep. All right, we'll deal with that administratively. Councillor Marks, as mover of the recommendation, do you wish to close?
Not really, but I'm happy with what has been presented. I agree with Mr. Hyam. I think this is a quality design and it will help the Kewdale area. So I'm happy with the conditional changes that you've brought in. So I'm pleased with what the outcome is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marks. All right, let's vote on the substantive as amended. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 4 for Belmont, Form 2 DAP applications, there are none. Item 5, Section 31 SAT reconsiderations also moved today. With that, I thank Mayor Robert Rossi and Councillor Phil Marks, our local government DAP members for the City of Belmont, for your attendance and participation today. We will move now on to Part C of the Town of Cambridge. We'll just take a couple of minutes to say goodbye to our current elected members and to welcome Mayor Gary Mack and Councillor Kate Marler, our local government DAP members. For those new to the meeting, this part, I remind everyone that the meeting is being run in accordance with the DAP standing orders, and the panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. Item 1, declaration of due consideration. Panel members need to have considered all the documentation contained within Part C of the agenda and the Part C related information. Could I please confirm by a show of hands that members have considered all information? Thank you. Item 2, disclosures of interest. Could I check with our local government members whether this application has been before you at a briefing or a meeting?
No.
Thank you very much. I haven't received any other disclosures at this point. To any member wish to make any declarations of interest in relation to
Probably partiality interest. The proprietor of the land has been in frequent contact with me. So just for the abundance of caution, I declare that as impartiality interest, and I'll decide the matter on its merits.
Thank you for that declaration, Mayor Mack. And in line with our standard standing declaration of interest, you acknowledge that this will not, that you're not bound by anything that was discussed at that meeting or influenced unduly, and that you do undertake to exercise independent judgment.
Yes, I do. I didn't have that meeting, but that's correct.
Thank you for that. I'm happy to have you participate in the meeting on that basis. All right, let's move on then.
I put in one.
Have a declaration of interest
Yeah.
from Councillor Barlow.
No, there was no attachment.
Pardon?
There was no attachment with your email. Reply.
Councillor Barlow, what is the interest? You can raise it with me now.
Apologies. I have been contacted by community members, and also one of the directors did contact me, but I will judge this on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. I'm happy with that. The actions that both you and Mayor Mack have listed form part of your normal function as local government elected members, and as you've indicated, you will bring an impartial mind to the matter. I'm happy for both of you to continue to participate. Thank you for those declarations. All right, let's deal with item 3 then, our Form 1 DAP application for Cambridge today, lot 423, number 59, Marlow, Webley. Proposed motor vehicle wash, DAP number 26/03068. We have 8 presentations on this item today, and we have received the deputation. We have Carol Hadley, is that correct? Thank you. Speaking against the application, Sarah Garvey against the application, L.B. Spencer against the application, Karen Murray against the application, and I have a written deputation from Christopher van der Voda against the application. And then we have the applicant team speaking in support of the application, Brendan Foley from Thompson's, Marina Kleberg from Premise, Ryan Atkinson from Synergy and Tonic Group, Simon Shubb and Karen Wright from Urbis, and Matt Nolan, a written deputation from Matt for Lloyd George Acoustics. First up is Carol. Would you like to come and take your seat? You have 3 minutes. As I mentioned previously in the previous application, we have read everything everyone has submitted, so I encourage you to stick to the key points so you can get them across within your time frame, and then we will be able to ask you questions after. So your 3 minutes. Carol, starts when you're ready.
Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation. My name is Carol Kagi. I have lived at 55 Marlow Street since 1981. I'm very familiar with the history of the proposals for this site. I can see that there are further issues that warrant consideration that have not yet been put before. Firstly, the safety risks at the car wash exit next to Jelly Beans Childcare Centre. The Responsible Authority report acknowledges Jelly Beans as an adjoining land use, yet neither the Transport Impact Statement or the Road Safety Audit assesses the conflict between the childcare drop-offs, pick-up movements and vehicles exiting the car wash. There's no information about that. The proposal also recommends extending the Grantham Street median strip to the edge of 59 Marlow Street, but there is no analysis of how this affects vehicles entering and exiting Jelly Beans when car wash vehicles are restricted to left turn only movements. There is no assessment of sightlines, queue interactions, pedestrian movements involving children, peak hour overlap. Given the vulnerability of child pedestrians and the high-risk nature of childcare traffic patterns, this is a significant omission. I consider the application therefore does not demonstrate compliance with clauses 67 to S and T relating to traffic safety and access. Secondly, plant room noise remains unresolved. The environmental noise assessment provides no sound power levels, no active band data, no ventilation noise modelling, and no assessment of breakout noise from the plant room. It simply assumes plant noise will be contained within the plant room building without providing evidence. Compliance with environmental protection noise regulations therefore cannot be verified, particularly for the adjoining dwelling. The most recent report to DAP on the 13th of July by the applicant acknowledges residual concerns about plant noise and notes that compliance can only be confirmed at detailed design stage because plant has not yet been selected. There is also no information summarising the total noise output from all sources on the site, vehicles and other equipment. They're all dealt separately. This is a significant technical gap. Thirdly, Marlowe Street as an access road. I have recent data that shows Marlowe Street currently carries around 1,024 vehicles per day, which is at the upper end for an access road. Peak hour carries about 95 vehicles. The proposed car wash would add approximately 478 additional daily vehicle movements, increasing traffic volume by nearly 50%. This level of intensification is inconsistent with the intended function of an access road, which is to provide safe, low-volume access to residential properties. The increase in peak hour traffic, combined with the proximity to a childcare centre, school routes, and the constrained Grantham Street intersection, represents an unacceptable impact on safety, amenity, and residential character.
That's your time, Carol.
I request this application be denied.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Members, do we have questions for this presenter?
From my end,
No.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Brilliant. Then to Sarah Garvey, and I think we have Sarah online.
Hi, yes.
Right.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
3 minutes starts when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me today and listening to my deputation. It relates to the Wembley site on Marlowe Street, which is currently classified by DWR as remediated restricted use. This site was a former petrol station where leaky petrol tanks resulted in contaminated soil and groundwater. This groundwater extends off-site to neighboring residential properties, which has resulted in memorials on title for groundwater abstraction. Due to this site being considered a source site, a contaminated sites auditor was involved in the investigation and remediation. According to their records, along with persisting groundwater impacts, some impacted soil is still present at depth. The current status of the site, according to DWR, is that it's suitable for any site use as long as the owners follow an ongoing site management plan. The only time this document is mentioned in the proponent's documentation is as part of the construction management plan. There's no mention of abiding by this ongoing SMP during operations, even though ongoing suggests it should persist on an ongoing basis. Without having access to the ongoing SMP, I cannot confirm whether the proponent has abided by what's written in it. It is concerning that there's no reference to the plan post-construction, especially considering the potential impact that this land use and the existence of contaminated soil and groundwater at depth means for adjacent residences. A car wash facility is going to be generating a lot of wastewater, and although there are plans to capture it via a triple interceptor and discharge to sewer, there's still risk that this water may make it into ground incidentally or unintentionally. Are there systems in place to ensure these systems don't become compromised or exacerbate the groundwater plume? The design also includes 100 square meters of permeable paving, 274 square meters of landscaping, including deep soil areas with the intention of improving infiltration. These are all points of potential infiltration that could mobilize underlying soil contamination and worsen the groundwater plume. There are ongoing risks that I don't believe have been addressed in the provided documentation when it comes to contamination, namely the lack of the mention of the ongoing SMP following construction and the risk that a high water use facility like a car wash poses on a site where soil and groundwater contamination is still present at depth. A car wash is probably one of the least suitable land uses for this site, where a groundwater plume located under residential properties and allows for further mobilization of this plume potentially. For these reasons, I don't believe a car wash should be approved at this location. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Do we have questions of this presenter? Ma'am.
Thank you. Look, Sarah, you mentioned that there's a memorial on your property, on your title deed.
It's not my property.
And the memorial's on the site of the proposed development. Is that right?
No, so there will be memorials on title on adjacent residents. So there's or lots, yeah.
Okay, and do we know what that memorial? Would you know if you do know what that memorial might actually say?
I believe it's a memorial on abstracting groundwater, but that'll be in the basic summary of records by DOR. It'll summarize it at least.
Thank you.
No problem.
The questions or any other questions of this presenter? Thank you, Sarah, for taking
Thank
the
you.
time today.
No problem.
Our next presenter is Albie. Come forward. Your 3 minutes starts when you are ready.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being me allowed to speak today. I've probably got a different view here, like more of a residential view. I own 59 or 57 next to adjacent to 59. There is a memorial on our title as well. So exactly what it is, I'm not sure, but I do have concerns. We've purchased this property within the last 6 months. Did all my due diligence and what I could to see what could be built on that land next to us. And from what I could see, there was no car wash and stuff like that that could be allowed there. I know you're here to only adjudicate differently, that's fine. So my due diligence was done. I do have concerns that I spend a lot of my time externally outside in my backyard. So I do have concerns about the noise that this proposal could generate to that with high vacuum, industrial vacuums, high pressure cleaners, all of that stuff. So the noise level, I think, as much as you try to mitigate, would be very difficult to control unless you were on an enclosed facility as such. Also with that, the intrusiveness of that with a car wash, early mornings, late evenings, all weekends, that's would sort of detrimental to the residential side of where I live and stuff at the moment. The other things that concern me is like the odor and the chemical exposure. The same as the noise, you can't restrict that unless it's enclosed. So with my backyard being right beside that, with a pool, outdoor facilities and stuff, I believe that there'd be a lot of overspray from the car wash, which will have some sort of contamination in it when it flies through the air, and whether it lands on my yard, across the road, 3 or 4 down is another thing. So that's a concern for me. Our dwellings, residential, aren't built for this sort of chemicals, sort of sprays or odor coming over. If it gets onto your tin, it will rust quicker than if it was in an industrial area, because they've got different quality tins and different surfaces to have. The traffic flow, I do believe that that's going to be a very big issue for our area. There's a lot of parking on street there, which does, over the school times, does allow very little two-way traffic flow through there. So being there 6 months, I've already collected a car on the side where I've had to divert because a car come flying around the corner, went to get out of its way and clipped a car that was parked there. So, and I've never had an accident until that. So I can see that the traffic flow that this is going to bring is going to be pretty high, and I just don't think that's appropriate for that corner side at the moment. So with all the points that I've my points as a resident of the area, and like I just don't think this is the fit for purpose use of that land. Highly regarded to approve something to go on there, because I don't like the blue fence that's hanging around the lot. So something that was practicable for there would be great. But as a resident, I just don't think, with the noise, the traffic, the smell, the odours, I just don't think this is an applicable development for this property.
Thank you. Members, questions, Mayor Mac?
Look, just to clarify, so your lot actually abuts the car wash facility to where that wall's going to be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So with the development plan that's in now, that the high protecting wall will take out all the light of all of our rooms on the north side, which is 6 windows.
And you're saying during school time, there's cars parked on Marlow Street. So if there's any overflow from the car wash and there's queuing on Marlow Street, that would effectively block the street. Is that what you're suggesting? Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Any other panel members? Thank you for your presentation. Next presentation is Karen Murray. Come forward.
Good morning and sorry.
You go ahead.
Good morning and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Karen Murray and I am here to oppose the proposed vehicle wash at lot 423 59 Marlow Street, Wembley. I am also a resident and live adjacent to the proposed car wash on Grantham Street. And I would like to focus on 3 key reasons why I believe the proposal should not be approved. Firstly, this is simply the wrong development for this location. Wembley is a well-established residential suburb that has become highly desirable because of its walkable lifestyle and vibrant local community. Residents chose to live here because they can walk to cafes, restaurants, wine bars, health services, beauty salons, and other local businesses that contribute positively to the character and livability of the area. A high turnover commercial vehicle wash is fundamentally different. It is a vehicle-oriented use that generates constant traffic, noise, and activity without providing a meaningful benefit to the local residential community. At a time when Perth is experiencing a significant housing shortage, it is also disappointing that a site within an established suburb is not being considered for additional residential development that would better meet the community's long-term needs. Secondly, I'm very concerned about the impact on residential amenity. The acoustic report concludes that the noise impacts will be limited. However, reports cannot fully reflect the lived experience of neighbouring residents. The proposed operating hours of 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. would mean that nearby residents could experience vehicle washing, vacuum cleaners, engines, and customer activity for up to 15 hours every day. During still summer evenings, when people naturally open their windows and spend time in their gardens or enjoy meals in their alfresco areas, that noise will inevitably affect their quality of life. Residents should not be expected to close their homes to escape the impacts of a commercial operation in what is predominantly a residential neighbourhood. Finally, I have serious concerns regarding the traffic impact assessment. The report does not adequately reflect the existing traffic conditions at this location. It acknowledges buses stopping near the proposed exit, but fails to properly account for congestion caused by vehicles entering and leaving the Jellybeans Childcare Centre, as well as turning movements from Marlow Street and Reserve Street. More concerning is that the report contains factual inaccuracies. It incorrectly describes this section of Grantham Street as having 1 lane in each direction when it actually has 2 lanes in each direction. It also contains incorrect information relating to road widths on street parking, suggesting that parts of the assessment may have been based on a different section of Grantham Street altogether.
You're at your time, so I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Sure. In closing, I respectfully ask the panel to refuse this application. The proposal is incompatible with the residential character of Wembley. It will diminish the amenity enjoyed by neighbouring residents, and it relies on a traffic assessment that contains significant inaccuracy. Thank you.
Does any member have questions for this? Sorry, I actually have a question for you. Does any other? I just wanted to check your understanding, Karen, because you made a comment about a commercial use on this site, and we'll get to the point in the meeting where we have a discussion about whether this type of commercial use is suitable or not. But given the zoning of the site at the minute, it does anticipate some sort of commercial use. Are you aware that, obviously given the history of the site, that there will likely be a commercial use of sorts?
Yes. Well, as I said, I'm hoping, I would like it if the council changed the zoning of the site. But other commercial businesses within the district do not impact on the residents of so yes, a commercial business is fine, but I would prefer it to be a commercial business that does not impact on the residents of the area. Thank you.
Sorry, can I do a follow-up question? Just on that same vein, the current planning scheme for Cambridge would also allow, with the same status and AUs, a drive-through takeaway business on that site. So are you aware that there's a whole range of things that could be equally as bad, or there are some obviously better uses in terms of how you see it?
Yeah. Yes, like we've had a few proposals go through, but there's like businesses along Grantham Street that are, as I said, the residents use and become part of our community. I would prefer a business of that suitability to the area. I don't oppose a business being built there. It's what type of business it is.
And then are you aware that as a panel, we have to apply the current scheme?
Yes. But I just hope that you will take our.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Just got a quick follow-on question from that follow-on question. I think, just so I better understand what you're advocating for, you're actually sort of saying that you would rather have a use of that land, that a commercial use that is more pedestrian centric and encourages more activation, that is more connectivity with people. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Absolutely, yes. Well put.
Thank you very much, Karen. We're going to move to presentations by the applicant team now, and usually what I do is I encourage the whole applicant now, and I allow you to run through all your presentations before I open for questions, but I do believe that Brendan Foley from Thompson's has another meeting that he needs to go to. So we're going to start with Brendan. We're going to take questions of Brendan following his deputation, and then he will follow up with all the applicant. And we do have some of those online. Brendan, I'm going to hand over to you. Your 3 minutes starts when you're ready.
Thank you, presiding members of the panel. Did provide quite a lot longer written submission than I normally would, so I wasn't sure how tight it was going to be. And so I think the best use of the 3 minutes is just to number one, the proposed use is capable. Number two is in respect of the draft local planning scheme. That scheme is a seriously entertained planning proposal because it has gone through the advertising process. But in terms of weight to be applied, is the correct position is that limited weight should be given to that because it lacks certainty and imminence. The matter following advertising has not gone back to the council for consideration, has not gone to the WAPC. It's not with the minister, and there are many prior examples that have gone before various DAPs that have been much further in the process and have ended up before the tribunal, and the tribunal have confirmed that it's limited weight right up until the point that you actually have certainty and imminence. In terms of concerns regarding amenity, the panel's required to apply the planning scheme according to the law, not dealing with general notions of what the area should or could be. The test for amenity is a statutory test, and it requires you to look at the existing character of the area and then hypothetically what change might precipitate from the proposed development. And it has been picked up in the prior SAT decisions dealing with this particular case that when you're dealing with the character of an area, that you can't expect the they called it a pristine residential environment when you're abutting Grantham Street. That is, there is a local centre zone. It is a recognised freight route under the state planning policy, and it is a blue road under the region scheme. In terms of the traffic and engineering points, the big bits here that I wanted to just pick up were that the matters of detailed design are capable of being resolved through the conditions approval process that's been put forward in the alternate resolution. It is normal. It is a normal part of the DA process to have matters of detailed design deferred to satisfaction as conditions of planning approval.
Without your time, Brendan, so I'll ask you to wrap up, please.
Yeah. If the applicant is not able to satisfy those conditions of approval, then the project doesn't go ahead. So I just wanted to close that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, questions of Brendan?
Yeah, look, I've got some questions. You say the current application is actually capable of approval, but other uses are also capable of approval, aren't they?
Yes, that's correct. So the tribunal have actually considered before. It's actually in your DAP.
It's in that Ward versus Town of Cambridge. Yeah.
It's also in your DAP training model that the role of a decision maker is not to consider all of the possible what's the best use for the site. It's to consider the use that's put before you for consideration and whether that use is appropriate or not.
And would you agree then that in terms of the certainty of the process in terms of LPS2, that it has gone to the minister, has been re-advertised, and we were aware that it did go to council as a further step along the process, but we lacked a quorum, at that time because three people were away, two people had declared a financial interest, and so and it's coming up in July. We're aware of that.
Yes, and on the draft scheme, the reason for lacking certainty and imminence is twofold. So you've got the scheme as a whole, and there were recent major announcements by the Minister for Planning to R codes. So that has to go through and be considered. Which is probably going to take time. We don't know how much time that might take. Other councils, I know, are half a step in front of you, where they're now having to re-look at the scheme proposal as a whole. The second is on this particular land use, the RMR actually notes that there's you're deferring some of the definitions and land use categories to further discussions with the Department of Planning, including in this particular land use itself. So that's why, from a legalese perspective, it doesn't have the sufficient level of certainty and imminence to give it a high level of weight in your assessment.
But you would acknowledge, though, it's well down the track of that chain of process to lead to it being gazetted.
Yeah. So the case that I referred to is the McDonald's on Canning Highway. That matter had gone all the way through the process. It had received its final recommendation from the Planning Commission, but had not yet been determined by the Minister, and the SAT still found that it lacked certainty in it.
And would you agree that regard has to be had to our local planning policy, which envisaged that area to be a local centre?
Yes. So when you're considering your local planning policies, there's an expression that the source of the stream can't rise higher than the source of your stream. The planning policy gets its power from the planning scheme. It isn't a source of power on its own. So all it is there to do is to guide the discretion that's otherwise.
I'm not saying that. I said that doesn't the local planning policy, though, that has to have the panel has to have regard to it. I'm not saying that it has the same status as a local or even metropolitan planning scheme. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's entirely correct. You are required to have due regard to local.
And really, and the other question is that really the applicant is asking the panel to exercise discretion. And so that discretion can contemplate not just acceptance, but refusal.
Yeah, of course. There is approval with conditions to mitigate the concerns of the community or of the panel, and there is refusal. They're the options that are.
I think that's it for me at the moment.
Further questions? And behind.
Thank you.
The RAR seems to suggest that because the decision for works in the road rests with the council itself, not just the officers, but the council, that as a panel, we ought not to, can't make a decision on which might suggest some works need to occur to satisfy the Grantham issue.
This is the perpetual submission that comes up in most DAP applications when we're dealing with main roads. Main roads don't like people using their roads, but it inevitably requires access to it. The reason for conditions of approval, those subsequent separate approvals are no different to requiring a clearing permit, requiring a building permit. They're not matters that or a health approval for a septic system if you're in a rural area. They're necessary steps that are required for the development that you may approve to get up, but you issuing your approval doesn't predetermine whether you're going to be able to satisfy those other elements. So the step for you is to make sure that if there's a concern about road access and the width of lanes, is there enough width within the road reserve to accommodate what's been proposed? And what the applicant has shown is that up and down Grantham Street, the reserve stays the same width, and there are all of the things that are necessary within that reserve width. The curb lines can change, the medians can change, the lanes can vary between 3.5 and 3.1 meters, and that happens up and down the street. So as long as you're satisfied that there is enough width within the reserve, enough area, and that there is a possible solution to that, even if the actual solution has not been settled yet, then that is enough for you to exercise your discretion and grant a conditioned approval that requires those necessary steps to move forward.
Just a follow-up.
Yeah.
Now, I do understand the point, and we all know that really well, that most technical issues can be conditioned.
Yeah.
But when you have something in a report where there is a process that's not subject to main roads or other approval, it's subject to the town's approval, and they're suggesting that they may not give it. You are seeking our approval of a DA that will then be subject to a separate council approval that is uncertain at this stage.
Yeah.
So would it not be, given the uncertainty around some of those technical issues, and this might actually be a question for Karen in a bit, or Simon, would it not be better to resolve some of that stuff with the town before you're actually asking us to give you an approval subject to a condition you may never be able to fulfill, and you won't be able to appeal it necessarily?
Well, you can appeal. So even though the local government has care, control and maintenance of the road, it is Crown land, and so the appeal mechanism is to the Minister for Lands. And I can give a practical example of this, which was a DAP matter, which is the ADC Mosman Park Shopping Centre. There was a condition imposed by the Metro Central DAP requiring car parking and embellishment works within the adjacent road reserve. It couldn't be, the town opposed the development, said that they would not support it. But it was a condition. So prior to occupancy, they required to embellish these on-street car parking bays. They couldn't get anywhere with the town of Mosman Park. When it approached the minister's office wrote back to the town and said, there is a solution here, try and work it out, otherwise come back to me, and that gets resolved. And I've got a second one, which was for Celsius property, which again was a Metro Central, to do with upgrading of a laneway in Subiaco. and the city of Subiaco were opposed to the development. It was approved. It moved through the process. It had a condition requiring the laneway to be embellished prior to occupancy. That couldn't be resolved through the normal course. Went to the Minister for Lands. Minister for Lands wrote back to the council, and it was ultimately resolved. So there are examples of it in a local government context.
Okay, now mindful you have to go and we all of a sudden have hand.
Just a quick one. Thank you, Mr. Blunt. This area is designated as a local centre. So how do you think a car wash fits into that definition? Because to me, it doesn't.
So you're not required to assess the acceptability or otherwise of a land use just by the name or what general notions of what you think the area should be. You have to have a look at the permissibility of land uses as set out in the land use table of the planning scheme. It is a discretionary land use subject to advertising. And so from whether that land use is capable of approval, that's the first step. So it is capable of approval. The question before you is whether you think it is approval, having regard to the matters that are set out in them.
Mr. Blunt.
Just one more follow through. Just in terms of the road reserve, you mentioned that the road reserve is of uniform width in Cambridge. That's not quite true, is it? Because it actually, where the medium strip is, it actually widens out there, and so it's not. Would you agree with me? That's not quite true. It's uniform up and down Grantham Street.
The reserve width is relatively speaking uniform up and down.
The road's not.
Yeah, so where the actual lanes are located within that changes up and down the road. And I think some of the other presenters might show locations up and down, but reserve width is generally, I had a look up and down the road. It stays pretty much the same for considerable, as far as I looked on your.
Yeah, look, that'll be a matter for, if we get to debate.
I'll ask the traffic engineers and the planners that. Any further questions of
No,
the?
I think that's for the moment, yeah.
And behind.
Thank
back
you.
to you.
Brendan, you would have seen the alternative recommendation with conditions. Have you cast your legal eye over the conditions and that they are proper planning conditions?
So while some of them are more onerous than otherwise would be the case, it's entirely appropriate to impose onerous conditions where you are concerned about mitigating amenity impacts. And as I understand it from our client's perspective, that they're able to work with those conditions and work towards clearing those conditions if approval is existing.
Many of the conditions are to the satisfaction of like the PTA or Domain Road.
Yeah,
third party.
They are. So we have this sometimes we add wording at the end to say that the ultimate satisfaction is always the town because they're the responsible authority. And so even if the wording is not ideal, you can fix those up. So it's on recommendation, but it from a practical perspective.
Further questions of Brendan before we? Thank you.
Thank you very much and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Our next presentation is from Marina Bayweg. She's online, I believe. Do we have Marina?
Yes, we do.
Hi, you've been listening online. Your 3 minutes starts when you're ready. Thank you. And then just for everybody that's watching, we will then roll on to the presentation from Brian Atkinson and then we'll hear from Simon and Karen. At the conclusion of these next 3 presentations, we'll open to questions of the applicant team. Over to you, Marina, when you're ready.
Thank you very much. I have submitted my deputation and presentation as well to MIDAP. I will try not to regurgitate everything that I wrote. In summary, the client has, next please, slide please. Thank you. In summary, the client has engaged with the town of Cambridge for a while and has actively sought to find a resolution that would satisfy all parties. I will focus on reason for number 4 for refusal, which pertains to traffic. And it can be broken down to two main points, and that is that the town does not support extension of median, 1.2 meter wide median, as shown on the drawings, and that the town of Cambridge does not support relocation of the bus stop 5 to 8 meters to the west to remove the conflict with the proposed exit driveway. Although that solution, that option was flagged by PTA as the preferred option, and the road safety audit, independent road safety audit, also confirms that that option is feasible. Slide, please. In summary, the state government agencies do not oppose this development. DPLH, who is in charge of Blue Roads, and PTA would support the development with conditions, and conditions being that the exit crossover to Grantham Street is made in such manner that it permits only left-out movement. The town of Cambridge Waste Services are satisfied with waste management plan, and the development satisfies parking provisions as well. Slide, please. Thank you. While the town we will focus on the crux of the issue, the exit crossover to Grantham. So obviously the traffic flow through this development is one way. Vehicles enter on Marlow, exit on Grantham. So therefore the impact is split, let's put it like that, onto existing network. The crux of the issue is that Grantham Street exit is needed to be left out. That's recommended by the RSA. The applicant also is happy with that. While the town is not happy with the proposed median extension, there are other options that are in vicinity of the site that can be deemed effective technical solution to restricting exit movements to left out only.
Marina, you're at your 3 minutes. I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Absolutely. We can go right to the back. Because that my point and the point of presentation is that the state agencies do not oppose to this development. The main issue is ensuring that the exit movements are left out only, and there are technical solutions to it that can be deemed approvable as they were approved nearby without impact on lane widths. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marina. We are now going to take the presentation from Ryan Atkinson. Ryan, I think we have you online. Ryan, can you hear us?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. So your 3 minutes starts when you're ready.
Okay. Presiding member, members of the panel, thank you for the opportunity to appear in support of the application. As the owner of the site, a quick thank you to everyone who has contributed: HCP, LGA, Premise, I3 Consultants, Architecture, Centrefield, In Situ Landscaping, Thompson's, Tetra Tech Coffee, Urbis, DPLH, The Were, Main Roads, Western Power, Water Corporation, the DRP, the Public Transport Authority, the neighbours and residents we've received feedback from, and the town of Cambridge. They have all positively contributed to our encumbered sites proposal being reviewed today. It's been a well-orchestrated 6-month process since submitting our application, and I'm very pleased with the quality of work completed. The skills and expertise deployed along this process have been very valuable. Next, and in recognition of these contributions, the DRP minutes softened the feedback we've received on our design. I'd like to elevate the design outcome back to the comments that were made in no unclear terms at the second meeting. Malcolm McKay stated that this was the best car wash he has ever seen. Simon Venturi separately reiterated that this was the best car wash design he has ever seen. And Robin Burnage agreed, and I quote verbatim, that this was the best car wash design he's ever seen. I appreciate that there are only so many ways to build a car wash, but there is a privilege the opportunity brings to build the best designed car wash seen by the DRP. And I'll admit to the panel, I banked these comments around the dinner table with my wife that night, who was for some reason skeptical until then to just take my word for it. A closing point on the history of the site. We're familiar with it, the two families having owned the childcare site next door for the last 20 years. I, however, did not know that per the RAR, the site was approved for car wash use in the year 2000 and has since then sat vacant. Quarter of a century later, here we are. We did not set out to build a car wash on the site. We assessed the uses available to the site and arrived that the car wash as the use best suited to activating the site within the site's unique physical constraints. On the constraints of the site, as a property valuer myself, it's my opinion that there's a real risk the site will remain inactive for another quarter of a century. I believe the constraints of the site are echoed in the many conditions provided to bring the development to life. We take no issue with the conditions found in the alternate, but welcome any discussion the panel may wish to engage in on these conditions or the proposal itself. Our team will have the answers. Thanks all.
Thank you very much. Simon and Karen, who will be presenting? Simon, your 3 minutes then starts already.
Good morning, Chair and members of the panel. Thank you for the chance to speak today. The proposal before you has changed and improved through the assessment process. That process has included 2 design review panel meetings, traffic assessments, a road safety audit, noise assessments and peer reviews, and discussions with key agencies. Those steps have improved the proposal and narrowed the issues before the panel. Next slide, please. Importantly, several matters are no longer in question. A motor vehicle wash is an A use under the current scheme. The design, landscaping and public spaces have been seen as a positive by the DRP and the town. The noise requirements can be met. There are no objections from external agencies, and that leaves 4 main issues. Next slide, please. The local centre objectives. A motor vehicle wash is a vehicle-based use, but that does not make it unacceptable. The question is whether this proposal works in this location, and we believe that it does. The design has been improved with more landscaping, increased tree canopy, bicycle parking, public art opportunities, and better pedestrian connections. And for that reason, we say that it is a suitable local centre outcome. Next slide, please. Brendan spoke to LPS2 in more detail. Our simple point is that draft LPS2 is a relevant consideration, but it is not the current framework. Under LPS1, this use can still be considered and approved on its merits. Next slide. Regarding the residential interface, the noise assessment shows that the proposal can meet the noise regulations. The work has been updated, tested and independently reviewed. The southern noise wall can also be reduced from 6.3 metres to 5.2 metres, which is not out of keeping with in this location and will meet the required noise outcomes. The site faces Grantham Street, which is already affected by traffic noise. The wall helps manage noise from the proposal and can also help reduce existing road noise for nearby residents. Conditions can require the final noise outcome to be checked before and during operation. Slide. Marina has spoken to access and traffic. The access plan has been tested through traffic assessment, road safety auditing and agency discussions. The safety objective is clear, a safe left-out access outcome. The technical work shows that there is more than one way to deliver that outcome. In our view, the remaining access matters are about the final design and approvals. They are not a reason to refuse the application. Change slide. The alternate recommendation shows that the remaining matters can be managed through clear conditions. Those conditions deal with noise, access, landscaping, operations, waste and agency approvals. Last slide, please. So the evidence shows that the key outcomes can be achieved and secured through conditions. For that reason, we do not consider that a deferral is necessary. We ask the panel to approve the application with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions of the applicant team? Mayor Mack, I'm going to start with you.
Fair enough. Look, yeah, I've got a few questions actually. Now, some additional material was provided, I think the acoustics and traffic after the RAR report was actually filed with the DAP. Look, yeah, I just want to note that additional materials were filed, weren't they? Yeah. And so the second thing is that Look, in your report, and I'll just make emphasis on the local planning strategy about the use of local centre and the Wembley character study. You in your report and your verbal deputation, you talk about there's a cycleway, there's a parklet, and it's a suitable activity centre. But my question is that what if the proposal is a drive-in, drive-out car wash where people are not going to get really essentially out of their cars, and that it's a single experience, not connecting with anyone else, and isn't the bicycle park and the parklet and so on, isn't that a bit of just window dressing to what is a semi sort of light industrial operation?
If I may just start with the answer to that question, and I'll defer to the town a little bit. The pocket park and the treatments aren't separate to our proposal, they're integral to our proposal. We did consider the Wembley character study as the hierarchical document that dictates character to the area, and we provided a response to each of the elements the community identified as most valued in the Grantham Street urban corridor, which is the context of the local centre. We've located a small-scale non-residential service use precisely where the study highest ranked element, the separation of land use, expects it to sit. Urbis, Karen and Simon, is there anything else you would like to talk to on that?
Not only that, really the design was refined through that design process. And so the good thing through that was that the design review panel recognised that it is a car wash use, but encouraged us to look at how we can integrate with the street. And then as a consequence of that, some of those preliminary concepts were then embellished further. And really the terminology came from the design review panel in terms of those pocket park notions.
And in terms of the, as some of the residents have said, in terms of the pedestrian use, there is really, I mean, it's not enhancing, because if an activity centre, a local centre is going to be, as the local planning strategy, focus on pedestrian access, less use of cars and so on, then that then sort of means that you have to have somebody to walk from and to. People have to have a reason to walk to have that pedestrian use. And really, the car wash contributes nothing to that because, again, it's just simply a drive-in, drive-out affair. Would you agree with that?
So what we've actually had a look at, we've considered the use to begin with. So the use for this particular site being car wash, which is a discretionary use. And then we've had a look at the objectives of the scheme and then really applied those objectives into the detailed design for the project. And it was really through that integrated process of looking at those that we have put those opportunities into the design for those that would be walking through and nearby to the site. A traditional car wash, in my experience, doesn't put any of those aspects into the detailed design, but what this specific development has done in this specific location is considered those objectives of the local planning scheme and then really applied the finessing in the detailed design into those edge treatments, particularly on Grantham Street.
Just coming to the traffic now, the left out turn from Grantham Street. I'll just ask questions about that first. Now, the suggestion is that the initial suggestion was that the medium strip be extended. Now, then on the screen, and that was, I presume, by extending what is currently a concrete curbing and a faux, if I recall correctly, brick paving. So it's a concrete structure essentially that is extended westward. Now, that's going to narrow down the road because we do know that where the current medium strip is, the road widens out to make sure that the minimum width of each lane meets the standard. So the suggestion by the lawyer, I just can't remember his name, from Thomson Gear, but was that that can all be tidied up with conditions, but can it be? Because underneath there's drainage issues as well. It would mean that some of the footpath might have to be resumed. And then I noticed on the screen there was these orange sticks. Is that seriously proposed as a solution? So I just need a little bit more. I think we need to hear it now rather than say, oh, we're going to kind of work it out later. What is the proposal the concrete proposal to actually to enforce a left out exit?
Just before Urbis answer that, Gary, those vertical delineators that are seriously proposed, they're from Grantham Street. The town of Cambridge placed them in and have found that they were extremely effective on the intersection of Pangbourne and Grantham Street. So I guess they're an option where the City of Cambridge saw accidents reduced from 31 accidents over a reporting period to just one. The town of Cambridge found that they were an extremely effective way of managing safety risks along Grantham Street.
Yeah, but Ryan, were you aware that they're temporary? Because we're subjecting that to a further, what's the name of that street, Councillor Barlow?
Jersey Street.
Jersey Street, where you're talking about the intersection of Jersey and Grantham. And they're temporary because we still are planning what we're going to do to that intersection. So they're not a permanent solution. Were you aware of that?
They're an effective solution that could be made permanent. They're made permanent along Beaufort Street, opposite the McDonald's there, and there's a series of instances where they're made permanent. The form of the 1.2 medium strip arose, and by way of context and background, arose from the request of the PTA to extend a medium strip or to have a medium strip considered as a potential solution. We put that together and put it towards the town's infrastructure team, and the conversations have taken on the form of detailed design. The infrastructure team has asked us to expand the medium strip by 1 or 2 meters, and we did, and we resolved their residual concerns on the length of it. And now they're currently saying that the 1.2 medium strip is too wide, to which Brendan's responded that there's a series of solutions there. If the town was to take the opinion that the vertical delineator strips for some reason were considered inappropriate and find otherwise to down the road, there still remain a series of options for us. For example, in our conversations with Simon Luscombe from DPLH, he suggested back-to-back vertical delineator curbs down the middle of the road. And I guess where I'm going with this is these are detailed design construction matters that involve some stakeholder involvement.
Yeah, look, yeah, another question is when it comes to the modelling in terms of entry into the centre, that is through Marlow Street, indicates that, provided that not too many big cars such as SUVs or 4x4 utes and so on are queuing up, then any spillover will actually, as we've heard from one of the residents, if it's used during a school day where people might be parking to attend the school and then they're queuing up, would effectively block the road. Would you agree with that?
I'll defer that to Marina, but before I get into that, the original queuing concerns around the site's capacity to hold all foreseeable queues were derived from the first peer review from the town when we had 6 queuing sites. When we revised the drawings to allow 9 queuing sites and reviewed the most updated peer review from Transcore, they did not highlight concerns that the queuing on site could not be handled. Regarding residual risks, we have other treatments in line with what the road safety audit recommended, in which we have adopted in full. Marina, is there anything else you might want to add on that topic as well?
I would like to add the fact that the current plans allow queuing for up to 9 vehicles, and we have 3 wash bays that are in operation. So therefore, another 3 bays that are technically the site can accommodate around 15 vehicles at any point in time. As per Ryan's comments, the initial queuing concerns were raised after the first peer review came through. I am not sure if DAP had a chance to consider that report. However, the model that raised concerns showed that arrival rate at peak time, which is Saturday, so outside of school hours, that Saturday arrival rate is 27 vehicles in 1 hour. However, the queuing modeling from the peer reviewer showed queue of 29 vehicles, so which obviously exceeds the arrival rate. Whatever model was used for modeling that particular queue, obviously assuming there was no human error behind it, we are all prone to that. I would assume that model assumes several hours of peak demand, which does not correspond to what is actually going to happen and what happens in reality. So if we have 9 vehicles queued that can, while 3 vehicles are being serviced in the washing area, practically it is unreasonable to expect that the 10th vehicle will queue up for the car wash as well, knowing that they will have to wait for the service close to half an hour, up to half an hour. They will simply go and look for service elsewhere. However, the mathematical probability of queuing spilling with 9 queuing spaces, when modeled appropriately, assuming that it's 1 peak hour, not multiple hours of peak traffic, shows quite clearly that the queuing can be contained on site with what is provided there. So the likelihood of queuing spilling onto Marlow Street is minimal.
Just one more question on the bus stop, and that's the only issue. I think the remaining issue. So just about the relocating the bus stop. I think 5.8 metres to the east. That is bringing it closer to Marlow Street, and this probably might be one for the traffic engineer. Is that so? For vehicles that are going to head north of Marlow Street and turn right, and a bus is parked at the relocated bus stop, then really, isn't it what's going to have to happen is that sightline is going to be reduced. So that car will have to edge out more towards the middle of the road before they make that decision to turn right. And then if there's an oncoming car, they're going to be stuck. So doesn't that pose a significant safety risk?
Well, the road safety audit does not classify that as a significant safety risk. Obviously, that is happening already, and there are no, the crash record does not indicate that while bus is stopped at that location and causes a temporary sightline obstruction, there are no records of crashes that are related to that situation at the intersection at the moment. So the road safety audit does not flag that as an issue, but more importantly, the PTA does not flag that as an issue. So in early dealings with PTA, the applicant has put forward several options for bus stop relocation, and the PTA's preferred option was to relocate it about 5 to 8 meters to remove that conflict, provided that the crossover is made to be left out only.
I think that's all for me. Thank you for the indulgence.
Councillor Barlow.
No, thank you.
Stand behind.
Thank you. One of the neighbours mentioned about possibility of spray from the car wash affecting their property. Can you just describe what actually happens there and
Sure.
any spray?
Ryan's actually best to answer that, but it's a closed loop system, so there's no opportunity to spray. So, but I'll let you answer that, Ryan.
Thanks, Karen. To answer the question on whether water would shoot over the neighbour's current 2.5 metre wall height, the roller doors close down and the machine won't start until the roller doors have closed down on the car. So we don't foresee water spreading across to the neighbour's property arises as an issue in this design, but we do know we take the neighbour's amenity very seriously.
Then a follow-up question to that: how many of the car wash or people having a car wash then go on to the vacuum bay? Out of 100% of cars doing the wash, how many would go to the vacuum bay?
say 5 to 10%.
So it's very small.
It's, yes, I'm speculating there, but it's around 5 to 10%, maybe 15 in a worst case scenario.
So if I just want to do a vacuum, I've got to go through I've got to hope there's a car wash bay empty to get to the vacuum bay. Is that correct?
You'll drive through one of the car wash bays to go access the vacuum.
So I might be one of the ones waiting there to get through to the vacuum bay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The other question that was raised by one of the neighbours was that the TIS didn't consider the childcare centre entry and exit. Can you comment on that?
The centre was considered, obviously. Oh, sorry, Brian, you go.
No, I was just going to say that's for Marina. Sorry, I wasn't aware you're going to that comment, but the road safety audit considers the roads environment as it is with the childcare there. So, Marina, if you would like to expand on that.
Yes, I was about to go down the same road. We can now disregard this in that method and what TIS says or doesn't say.
Okay.
Yes, it obviously did consider it, while we don't have a section in the report discussing that exclusively, simply because it wasn't deemed a relevant issue. The road safety audit is the more important and more pertinent one document. The road safety audit doesn't have limited scope. So, for example, anyone who ever organized the road safety audit knows that if you request an audit of a specific section of the network or a point on the network, auditor is legally obligated to look at the road environment in its entirety, and as well extend the auditing site as far as they believe is required. So road safety audit did not see any issues with the neighboring childcare centre. The childcare centre has been in operation for a while. It has a full movement crossover, which means all entry and exit manoeuvring is via one crossover that's on Grantham Street. Obviously, right turning movements are introduce the greatest risk on network from road safety perspective. This development proposes to remove that risk altogether.
And just one final question then. It's the same one I asked Brendan really about the alternative recommendation and the conditions for approval. Is the applicant team totally happy with the wording of those conditions?
Yes, we are.
I think most of them have been along. Also, the council has, local authority, indicated that the reports were received late. Do you think that the updated reports give better weight to an approval or to the resolution of some of the issues such as acoustics and traffic?
So we
confused in the.
We were confident that at the time the RA was written, that there was sufficient technical documentation for the town to be able to make its determination, whether that was refusal or a conditional approval. But what we have sought to do is really further that evidence and really to narrow down the issues as best we can, so that we had that level of confidence, I suppose, coming and talking to you today. But we were still convinced that as of the 23rd of June or whatever that date was, that we had provided substantial technical support for the development at that time. So there had been, as we've said, TIS, RSA, further acoustic modelling that was undertaken as well.
Good, thank you. That's
So just as a follow on and final two questions from me. We're not considering the latest set of documentation that was submitted post-design review panel assessment, are we?
Yes, so the design review, the information that was presented to the town on the 23rd of June was then considered by the design review panel a second time, and that's the most that's the most updated set of information.
But reading the report, I think it's version H versus version I. Those plans are not what we're being asked to consider today.
That's correct.
Okay, so is this DAP being asked to make a decision on documentation that has been superseded?
No, we still believe that the matters that were put forward to us can be dealt with conditions of approval.
If I may take the opportunity to answer that question as well. Any additional information that we've provided since the RAR was written does not change or add to the proposal, and the panel would not need to rely on any of that, say, newer material that made part of our response. It is responsive, and it's just about providing enough information to feel comfortable with the conditioning of the approval. We made some minor changes in revision I and rescinded those changes. And what is in front of the panel that the RAR has considered is the determinative plans.
Okay, so just on some of the technical supplementation, I guess that the town has asserted that the additional information you have provided, technical information in the last few days, introduces new information that they haven't had time to properly consider. So the reason I'm raising this is I note the point you made earlier that you would prefer not to have a deferral and you want it dealt with on the basis of the stuff we've got before us. But given, in my view, there is some uncertainty about securing approval outside the DA process for works outside the property boundary, and I understand Brendan's point that you can go through a process to get that sorted, and I would suggest that that would be a lengthy and arduous process. Or you could accept a deferral for a period of time and allow yourselves and the town to work through some of those issues in a little more detail so that this DAP is not being asked to consider information that was received in the last couple of days. Did you want to comment on that?
So if I may, just in terms of the additional considerations in the acoustic assessment really undertook to model the background noise. And so what that actually demonstrated was that the background noise from Grantham Street had a greater impact on the existing residents than the car wash currently has. And so that's why, that as an example, that was why it was our consideration that the information that was before the town was sufficient and also before the DAP, because in fairness, we also wanted you to have the right information before you as well. That's the type of information that is the additional information, and that's probably why it's our contention that we feel that there's sufficient information in front of the DAP to make that decision. In relation to, particularly in relation to the matter of the access, we do believe that there are a couple of scenarios or a couple of design options that are available there. And I suppose why we're saying that is so that the DAP is comfortable that there's not just one option, and if we cannot meet that option, that then, you know, that basically the development won't proceed. In this instance, we believe that there are probably a number of options, and we believe that it's pretty standard to be able to work through those with the town post development. In reverse, if we then thought, okay, we would go to the town to get the certainty on how that access would operate, there's no imperative or there's no formal process for the town to consider that. Whereas it's our contention that a conditional approval will actually bring us to the table to be able to negotiate that access.
Okay, so let me explore that a bit more. Let's say there are a few options and you go back to the town as a condition of approval and you really just struggle to land on something. Would it not be preferable to narrow down those options and come back to this DAP with the option that has been through the town? We can see what the town has said about all those options and we can see what you say about the options, and then we get to make the call on that. Would that not provide your client more certainty?
So it is quite a dilemma at the moment, because the discussions that we've had with the town is that regardless of the detailed design aspects, they don't support the land use. So we're betwixt and between. It's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation. So regardless of the detailed design, we already know that the land use, and we could continue to go down this to create the greater certainty. which we believe can be conditioned, but we could go down that process with the full knowledge that the town is still going to come back with a recommendation for refusal based on the.
Yes, but let me ask you a further question. The town may have that view, but at the moment, potentially it's not that we make the decision on the appropriateness of the land use or otherwise. That's our role. And even if you go back and look at those alternative technical solutions, you still get a recommendation for refusal on the basis of land use. Wouldn't this panel at least have more certainty about the supporting technical information to make the decision? So irrespective of the town's view on suitability of land use, wouldn't you want to narrow the technical uncertainty to afford this DAP the opportunity of making the best informed decision possible for your client?
If I may jump.
Sorry,
Karen, you
Ryan,
go.
I'm waiting to hear from Karen.
Sorry.
So if I may, in our experience, it's unusual to already have the support of DPLH as the responsible authority for the road. So DPLH has already advised that it has no objection to the development and has been prepared to also talk to us about some of the detailed design aspects that could be supported. So we believe that that gives greater level of certainty, and that gave us the confidence to talk to come to you today. Main Roads has no objection to the crossovers, so again, in our experience, sometimes we'd be before you without Main Road support, and then thirdly, and again, we have PTA support for the proposal. So when we've lined up the fact that we've got DPLH, Main Roads, and PTA support, with the opportunity for a couple of options in terms of working through the detailed design, that's what has given us, I suppose, the confidence to come before you to feel that there is the ability to conditionally approve the development with that certainty. If one or two or all three of those weren't there, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But we have said that the preeminent authorities for these roads and for this infrastructure for the bus stop have no objection to this development.
Thank you. Ryan, final comments on that matter before we move to...
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I guess in supplement to the degree that it carries weight, the conditions in the alternative note that a coordinated civil traffic and development plan should be submitted and approved by the town before the issuance of a building permit. So while the steps have been taken to take this development as far as we can, and with the concept fixed for the egress, the next steps could be adequately handled through condition 11.
Yeah, I might just move, if I could, a procedural motion that the meeting be adjourned to a date to be fixed, but no sooner than 60 days on the basis, and I'll need a second to get it up, but I believe I'm allowed to talk for 2.
So outstanding orders have shifted, that a deferral is no longer a procedural motion. So if
defer the item.
proposal fails...
No, not to defer the item, but to defer the meeting.
You can see if you can get a seconder, or we could debate it. So procedural motion, there's no debate on that.
I just check.
If you want to move a motion, if the refusal fails, you can move an alternative.
I might foreshadow that, but for the moment, I think given that there's been fresh material, so I do move a procedural motion, not that the item be deferred, but the meeting be deferred, which I think we can do.
I don't think we can.
I refer to the governance manager.
And adjourn to a future date.
You can adjourn it.
To a future day.
Report. It won't be for you won't receive a new report. The report will be the report that you have on the day.
Okay.
So I would suggest that we better handle an alternate rather than a procedural motion to adjourn the meeting, because we'll simply pause it where it is now and pick it up where it is now, rather than deferring and requesting further information.
Okay. Could you just define what we're going to do?
We're going to continue with what we've got in front of us at the moment. And if there is a move to defer, it needs to be dealt with as an alternate if the motion to refuse is lost.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. I think we've taken enough questions on it, and we will move to the report now.
The officers.
We do need to talk to the officers, sorry. We've asked so many questions that I completely forgot about them. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Member. We do have officers from the town of Cambridge. We have Stephen Laming, Nadia Williamson and Alistair Tom online with us today.
Start video. Hello, good morning, presiding member and panel members and all in attendance.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. Look, I think we've got a lot of information in front of us and we've had a lot of questions. So I'm not going to ask you to summarize or respond to deputations. I'm only going to ask you to respond to questions. I think there may be a few. So Mayor Mack, questions of the council.
Look, yeah, just I just want to ask a question on the material that was submitted subsequent to the publication of the RAR report. Is it true that that the town would like to consider that material and work with the applicant to go through the additional material being an additional traffic information and additional acoustic information? Would that be fair to say?
Thank you, Mayor Mack. Yes, the town officers haven't had a chance to fully review that information and form a position to a point where we can provide any technical assurance to the panel. So it's our view that because that material was received late, we just need more time to consider it, and we can use that time to liaise with the applicant to hopefully come to an agreed traffic exit solution, that we can come back to the panel and provide our technical advice so that you can make an informed decision. Just to comment on the use of conditions, we don't think a condition is an appropriate mechanism to resolve the traffic exit issues, because conditions are really used for design refinement, and they work well when a solution has been agreed to. Because the town and the applicant haven't agreed to a solution, we would effectively be trying to do that post-approval, when the risk for the panel is that we might not be able to find a solution. But the town definitely is open to working with the applicant to see if we can find one before we come back to the panel.
Can I just follow on from that? I mean, there is a concern that you're never going to support the land use, but if this panel chose to defer this application, and understanding that it's the panel that makes the decision about suitability of land use, and I don't mean to be disrespectful with this question, but can we assume that you will work with the applicant in good faith on the technical solutions, irrespective of your view on the land use?
Absolutely. And, I do just want to make a comment. The planning consultant commented that she was concerned that the town didn't support the land use, and therefore there wasn't any benefit in liaising with us to resolve the technical issues. The town considers that's a simplistic view of the application process, because yes, it is clear that the town doesn't support the land use under LPS 1, but we accept that if the application is approved in regards to its land use, it also needs to be capable of operational approval. So, and this is quite standard. There's often, if the town forms a planning position that we don't support a proposal, we still work with the applicant to try and ensure that the operational aspects of the proposal are in the best version that they can be, so that there is minimal or no risk if the proposal actually starts operating. So having said that, we're fully prepared to work with the applicant.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions of the officers? Further questions?
I didn't get a chance or haven't been able to look at the proposed scheme number 2. But I do understand from the RR that this use would become an X use. Is that the same for other A uses which are car related within the proposed scheme, such as petrol and convenience store or takeaway food outlet drive-through?
Thank you for the question, panel member. Off the top of my head, I don't know the use permissibility of those particular land uses. My efforts today have been focused on vehicle wash, but I can comment that in the new scheme, the version of the scheme at its current stage is a vehicle wash is a combined land use with a vehicle workshop. And my understanding is that use, land use term and definition was prepared in response to DPLH advice many years ago when the draft scheme was first being prepared. But that may change. But what the fact that is before the panel today is that that land use was classified as an ex prohibited use in a local centre when the draft scheme was first prepared in 2023. And it's been through various stages of the draft scheme preparation process, including.
Sorry, Stephen, I'm just going to hop in there. That's information that we are across. You've provided us that information. The question was about other similar car-centric land uses. But if you're not able to answer that, that's
not able to answer it. Yeah, just wasn't sure if the panel member fully understood because he said he hasn't read the scheme. That's all.
Scheme number 2.
No.
Yes.
I'm not sure that any of us has fully read your draft scheme number 2 at this point. Thank you, though. Any other questions of the town staff? Can I just confirm something with you? I think Mayor Mack might have answered my question earlier on, but when is it anticipated you will present your draft local planning scheme back to council?
It's later in July, so I think it would be the 28th of July. So just over 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks, sorry.
Thank you. All right. I am now proposing, panel members, that we move to the report. We have a report in front of us recommending refusal of the application for a number of reasons. I will seek, in order to proceed, a mover of that recommendation. Do I have anyone who wishes to move the refusal?
I'll move it, panel chair.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Mayor Mack, do you wish to speak to the refusal?
Look, I do. I'll say a number of things. First of all, on premise, what I say is that I think it is important that we get that the town considers all material, not just material that's been presented late in the day. I think that's really not the correct process, and I think it avoids the benefit for the residents and the panel members and the applicant, proper due process and procedural fairness. So I'll say that at the outset. But moving on to the actual development itself, and I do foreshadow a deferral if this is lost. So I'll state that as being part of what I've just said. But then moving on to the development itself, I acknowledge that it currently is an A classification under LPS 1. I acknowledge that it is capable of being approved, but it doesn't have to be approved. But I do come down to what really is what planning is, and planning is forward-looking. Planning is not about looking things in the past; it's about what's going to happen in the future. And we've embarked upon a very detailed and lengthy process of having local planning strategy, and that obviously informs the local planning scheme, and that's where we are now with that. That's gone to the minister, to the department, WA Planning Commission, and the minister's come back for re-advertising with some recommendations. That's been done, the feedback has been collated. There are some minor amendments that we're actually going to send back through to the minister, subject to council approval on the 28th. And then I don't anticipate there'll be too much issue with that. But I will say, though, throughout that whole process, DPH, WA Planning Commission, the minister, and the town, there was no objection to X use, and there was no variation to that when the minister actually sent it back to us. And that's on the basis of that forward-looking, that the idea of the Wembley Local Centre is to have an activity centre that's not vehicle dependent, that's actually people do walk, to have that amenity, which is contemplated in local planning strategy, which I admit that it is have to have due regard to, but due regard to in sense of informing our interpretation of the provisions in LPS 1. And so and of course the other uses are capable on that site, subject to a land management plan, and that could even include a mixed use. That could include more residential development, but also say that in terms, one of the residents said, what they would prefer is more housing. And of course, there's some other sites that are on the verge of development, and we're considering this one. But having those sites, say a 3 to 4 story apartment building overlooking a car wash, is not really a great incentive for a developer to put in the other sites that will in the fullness of time become available to provide for housing in that area. So I think it's really important. I think we can't really gloss over this issue of the median strip. We've had quite a few accidents in an intersection just east of that, and that's the reason why we've got those temporary bollards, and we've got temporary pole things. Just can't recall their name, but that's the reason why we've got that, and we're having a very detailed study as to the safety of that. And so I think we do really need to work with the applicant. The applicant really does need to come up with, I think, some really concrete proposals, because that's one of our key concerns. Is we've had many accidents at the other intersections. Just Councillor Barlow, what street?
Jersey Street.
Jersey Street. Sorry, just mental block on that. And that's the T-boning type of accident, which has resulted in injury, hospitalisation, and the community has really pressured us to do something about that. And so we don't want to replicate that here, because of a bus stop being relocated, and then people going to try and jump through and turn right when they don't want to, or to avoid going through the car wash to get the car vacuum clean. So just like, we're going to turn right anyway, I'm just going to go through those plastic things, and I'm going to get my car vacuum cleaned. So we see some really practical issues, and and I do take into account the vision of that area, the forward-looking vision, which is that it'll be multi-use, multi-purpose. There'll be some mixture of commercial, residential. There'll be cafes, small bars, wine shops, where that pedestrian element of people walking through, people connecting with each other, which you're not going to get with this use. They're asking for us to exercise discretion on the use of that land. And so what I'm advocating is that the discretion that we apply should be a refusal. And that, and of course, the applicant owns the land, they can come back with another proposal, as it has been in the past, for that very piece of land. Just make sure I've covered off everything. I'm still concerned about the potential for queuing and the closest to the school and the parking there, particularly drop off and pick up. The parking is intense, and also the parking is while school days is also where people attending school and so on is pretty intense as well. So I'm concerned about that. I think that needs to be worked through with our departmental officers. To really nail that down. It's a bit vague for me at the moment, but notwithstanding the traffic studies. And I'll say one thing about modelling. As one resident put, you can have modelling, but then you've got the lived experience, and the two don't always align. And so we do have to rely on evidence, but then we have to temper that with people's lived experience. And so, otherwise I endorse the officer's recommendation, but I do foreshadow a deferment if it comes to that.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. Councillor Barlow, a second.
Thank you very much. Well, this site has been vacant for many, many years, and in time 7 DAs have been put forward. But unfortunately, the one that was approved for the fast food, unfortunately, that circumstance didn't occur. This is designated as a local centre, and a local centre is one that services the community with convenience stores, cafes, local services, pharmacies, medical, and perhaps a gym, a place where the community come and meet. One poses the question: does a car wash service the local community with any of these services, but perhaps occasionally for the residents to wash their car? Therefore, it is not appropriate development for this site. The other concerns in this report, which once again come down to the road network and infrastructure, and we've heard that today about how this could actually be fixed, but that actually is a long process, because actually if that comes back to the town of Cambridge to decide whether they're going to do that. And once again, when you remove the medium strip, and also to make, you're going to have to widen the road, and that's going to infringe on the pedestrian pathway. And the pedestrian pathway there is used by children going to the school. And so therefore, yeah, as I say, that's going to be a long process. And then moving the bus stop, etc., is going to cause lots of concerns, etc. And it's been demonstrated here by the people, the residents, about the traffic and in Marlow Street, how that's going to infringe on their lifestyles and their amenities. As also the noise and the odours, etc. Although it's been pointed out that the odours will be contained within the car wash, right? But also, I'm not prepared also too, because I think we require those extra reports to come back so that we can make the correct decision for this area. So I'm supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Other members? Mayor Higham, what is it? Maybe I'm seeing, we're talking about being forward looking, maybe I'm seeing into.
Yeah, well, you career until you're not. Right, member, I don't believe there are sufficient reasons to refuse the development. I'm clear on that. Neither do I think this is sufficiently resolved to approve it at this stage. In terms of reason one, the objectives of the local centre, the RAR recognises there are many aspects of the proposed development that are worthy of consideration. These aspects can be further developed through appropriate conditions here. And I refer to the street front park and those sorts of things. In my view, it would be hard to conclude that in an overall sense, the development does not align with the objectives for the area. And the second reason, the draft LPS2. We've heard plenty on that. I'm quite satisfied that it is neither certain nor imminent, despite the Mayor's comments. From a legal point of view, it cannot be seen to be certain or imminent. The Mayor mentioned planning is looking forward, but of course we must take into account the current planning framework. The local government has a scheme there. It's had opportunity for many years to do something about it. Hasn't until more recently, I suppose. But the fact is the scheme allows or enables a use like this to be approved. And as I mentioned in one of the questions, there are other car-related uses currently in the scheme which could be approved on that site. So I'm not sure that the objectives that are being aspired to actually align with the scheme in more than a car wash sense. So I give little weight at this stage to the LPS2 provisions. In terms of the third reason, the residential interface and amenity, when compared with the neighbouring properties, this could be seen as an imposing development, but I understand that the opportunity there is to reduce the wall height to 5.2 metres, and that would assist. And in terms of overspray and noise, I think, well, except modelling sometimes can be a little bit different to the actual experience on site. We have to go on the modelling. That's the evidence that's been given to us. In terms of the access and traffic implementation, there are concerns about congestion and movement through the site, and perhaps stacking Marlow Street. Again, I think based on the evidence of the traffic engineer, we have to accept that that is very unlikely to occur. The bus stop is being moved 5 metres, which is roughly the distance across this. So there's hardly a movement there that's occurring in terms of sight lines from the corner. Marlow Street. The median can be resolved. There were plenty of examples being given about much narrower medians that can work and work in other locations without impacting on the width of the lanes. So, Madam Chair, I'm quite comfortable in my position of not supporting refusal, and I will await further developments there. Thank you.
Member for Sandra.
Thank you. Yes, I also won't be supporting the refusal. Again, not to reiterate what's been said, it is an approved use. I think many of the issues have been resolved and can be further resolved with conditions such as the acoustics and the traffic. I think there are solutions to the left out only. I think everyone is comfortable with decide on those. I think the architecture and the landscaping is of a high quality, and I do think the impact on neighbours, I do understand that, but I think some of this development will actually benefit the noise that is generated from Grantham Street, but I do understand their concerns, and on that basis I won't be supporting the refusal.
Thank you. I will speak to the substantive. Look, I'm not comfortable to support the recommendation for refusal at this time, and not for the exact reasons provided by the town. In relation to reason 1, I acknowledge, in line with what some of the neighbours have stated, that there are other uses that would align more closely with all the objectives of the local centre zone, and that a different type of development might result in the type of streetscape and pedestrian outcomes envisaged by the local planning strategy and associated policy documents. I'm reluctant to refuse the proposal on the basis that it's car-centric and doesn't relate to street like some of those other uses might do. Picking up on Member Hyam's point, there are potentially other uses that are also more car-centric that are also able to be approved with discretion on this site. So the nature of a car wash is it's car-centric, but it's currently an A use under the operative scheme, which means in deciding this application today, it can technically be considered on a lot with the zoning of local centre despite its functional characteristics. So our role is therefore to consider whether this motor vehicle wash on this site and with the specific form, design and other technical aspects proposed is acceptable on planning merit. Comments from the town's design review panel and other information in the Responsible Authority report outline that the proposal does have quite a lot of design merit and that potential amenity impacts of the proposal have been substantially reduced since it was submitted through redesign and since it was advertised to the community. Therefore, I'm not convinced that the first reason for refusal is appropriate, and given past SAT decisions on comparable matters, I don't think that reason for refusal is strong and clear enough to withstand challenge at this point. In relation to the second reason for refusal, I see and I acknowledge the town's intent to preclude a use like this from their local centre zone in future by listing it as an X-use under draft planning scheme number 2, possibly to avoid those concerns that I've just described. But I do accept the arguments put forward by the applicant team that this is not reasonable to use as a reason for refusal at this time, given the lack of certainty and imminence of finalisation of the draft scheme in the form currently proposed at the time and at the point in its approval process. The lack of certainty and imminence of that scheme is acknowledged by the town itself in their RA. Given the additional justification and submissions made by the applicant during consultation on the draft planning, even if the town had made a final decision on the draft scheme at the last meeting, or even if they do in the next couple of weeks, the Department of Planning, the WAPC or the Minister could still take a different view to the town on that matter, given the submissions made. So I'm therefore reluctant to rely on the second reason for refusal as a defensible reason for refusal at this meeting. If we were further down the approval process, I might have taken a different view on this. I'm also not comfortable relying on the technical, acoustic and traffic and access reasons for refusal at this point, because it seems they are being contested with quite a bit of evidence by the various experts, and because the state agencies, who the applicant quite rightly points out are not always easy to convince about proposals such as this one, they have supported it. The town has stated they have not had adequate time to properly review and report to this DAP on the most recent information. So they can't say for sure from this technical aspect that it should still be a reason for refusal. This DAP also doesn't have the most recent version of the document submitted post the last design review process, which appear to have responded further to some issues of concern. Now, Mr. Foley made a point in the Thompson submission that this panel needs to undertake the balancing exercise required by clause 67, having regard to all relevant planning considerations to determine whether on balance approval should be granted. And I don't think we can have proper due regard to all relevant considerations if we don't have all relevant information, and the applicant team feels we do. I, as the decision maker, need to be comfortable that I do, and I'm just not comfortable at this stage. And so that is why I'm not comfortable to support any alternate recommendation for approval at this meeting either. I'm not comfortable to accept an argument that the outstanding technical considerations can be resolved via conditions. I acknowledge that most of the time they can when they're minor issues, but I don't think I've got enough clarity about the acoustic and traffic access considerations at this point to properly consider the amenity impacts on the neighbours or the surrounding area, or the appropriateness and adequacy of the conditions that are being provided by the town at this stage. So given the uncertainty about some of those technical matters, I can't make a sound judgment call on the appropriateness of the conditions to address those issues. So I will therefore not be supporting either this recommendation for refusal or any alternate recommendation for approval at this meeting. But if this motion is lost, I will put forward the motion to defer that was provided to us by the town in response to the Reg 13 request for further information. And if that deferral motion gets any airtime, I will be flagging that I'll suggest a deferral period of 72 days. I note the town has suggested a deferral period of 60 days to give them the ability to assess and report back on the additional information provided by the applicant, but the DAP Secretariat also needs time to finalise the agenda and arrange the meeting within that deferral period. Otherwise, we receive a report asking us to defer again. We don't have the ability to extend that. So I think a period of 72 days would be more appropriate if a deferral motion gets some airtime. Mayor Mack, that concludes my comments on the recommendation to refuse. As mover of that motion, do you wish to?
Look, thank you, Chair. I appreciate the Chair's comments about having insufficient information. I mentioned in my submission that it was vague, and I think that given the matters of traffic and the acoustics, traffic, from my personal views, is critical to the ongoing success of this application and the safety of the residents, given the sensitivity at other streets within Grantham Street. But I just want to raise just a comment about the balancing. We do need all that information, and that does include the given weight. I would suggest that more weight needs to be given to our local planning scheme, a local planning strategy, because that does inform the scheme. But I'll leave my comments there. I don't think of anything else, but I've mentioned if the Chair has said she's going to move a motion, I've foreshadowed I would as well. But I'll leave it to the Chair if that's her intention. Rely on that.
Thank you, panel members. We will now vote on the motion in front of us, which is to refuse the application for a number of reasons. All those in favour?
To refuse?
To refuse.
I think I know what's going to go, yeah.
Thank you. Against? That motion is lost. As I foreshadowed, I will replace that motion now with the motion to defer that was provided by the city in their extra information. However, I propose that the deferral period be 72 days instead of the 60 days that have been provided by the town. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Mayor Mack. I don't propose to talk further or say much more about the deferral. I just think the deferral will give the town the opportunity to review those technical aspects, even if they don't come back with an altered view on the land use permissibility. We will just have more certainty as this panel to make an informed decision and perhaps remove some uncertainty for the applicant through the condition clearance process, which could drag on if we don't narrow that down. It also provides the opportunity, as Mayor Mack raised, for the town, if they want to provide any further evidence or strengthen or substantiate their argument more about the certainty and imminence and the weight that should be afforded to local planning scheme number 2, then this deferral process will allow them to do that. So I think that it is an opportune process to gather that information to allow this panel to make an informed decision. Mayor Mack, do you wish to speak a second or two?
No, thank you, Chair.
Any other member? Yes, Mayor Hire.
Thank you. Look, I support that, but I would actually like to add another 0.5,
sure,
if I may. And it would read, as draft approval that reflects any changes as a result of the above, with appropriate conditions that are not subject to third-party approvals, and including a list of plans for approval as condition 1.
Thank you. Look, as mover of the motion to defer, I'm happy to add that reason. It is a common sense reason, but I think if we give visibility to the fact that when the town's report comes back, they have provided some conditions for approval if we have a mind to approve, but there's been no interrogation of those conditions and it does appear that there needs to be some tightening of those. So picking up on Mayor Hyam's additional reason to defer to allow the city to tighten. Did I say that again? It's an absolute. It's going to stick in my head now. Mayor Mack, are you happy to add that as seconded as a?
I think the result of that will make both parties work harder, to get them resolved. So from that point of view as well,
Okay, then I'll give you an opportunity in a minute.
I've just got a question when you're ready.
Yeah, the motion then on the table in front of us is the deferral motion with 72 days and the extra reason that has been provided by Member Hyam, which allows the town to review and refine the alternate recommendation for approval if that.
You've said they're third party. Who's the could you just read out what you've said?
Many of the conditions refer to approval of PTA or getting approval of, that's a third party. Conditions ought not to be at the behest of a third party.
Oh, thank you.
So it's just tightening those conditions.
Thank you, thanks.
All right, does any other member wish to speak on that amended motion to defer? Let's put that motion to defer to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving then on to item 4, Form 2 DAP applications. There are none for Cambridge today. There are also no Section 31 SAT reconsiderations. RD other business, all SAT applications and Supreme Court appeals for the DAP are listed on our website for any interested in reviewing them. With that, I will close the meeting at 11:55 a.m. I thank all the elected members for your participation today. I thank the members of the community that have participated, assisted in our decision making, and also for the applicant team for coming in and making our presentations. And as usual, I express my gratitude to the Secretariat for your hard work both at the meeting and behind the scenes. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Chair.